one of our favorite things that happens is when we get someone referring us a publicly traded company. Since we don't just interview publicly traded companies, we interview barbecue companies too, apparently. But this company here, Envoy Medical, we got the CEO, Brent Lucas, coming in just a second. And we're going to talk about hearing health and hearing loss, which is something that I know you and I, who've had headphones on for our entire life,
I suffer from it.
are musicians. We got in-ears. Yep. And it's something, and I try to switch mine back and forth because I know there's going to be a day when I'm not just saying what, Mary, because I'm ignoring you. I'm actually saying what because I can't hear you.
I do it all the day long. Yeah. I have bad hearing.
What?
So let's talk to Brent Lucas. Brent Lucas is the CEO. Brent, how are you, sir? Thank you for coming along. We appreciate you taking the time to come out and be on the air with us and suffer through the beginning of this program. But great to see you, man. Let's talk about
good to see you.
Let's talk about hearing health. It's something we don't think about until, it's almost like, remember when you got reading glasses? Some of you are too young for reading glasses, but it's the day of reckoning is coming, Greg Todoroff, when it's going to be.
You told me this, and it literally happened the following week.
Did it really?
My arm wasn't long enough.
I'm assuming.
Right?
Yeah.
Brent, is that the same thing with hearing loss? All of a sudden it's there, it wasn't there before?
Really depends on the situation. I think for some people, it is something you're born with, obviously. So some children are born hard of hearing or have profound deafness. Other people lose it throughout their life because of sound exposure. And then some people do wake up and all of a sudden find out that they've had sudden hearing loss. So it's all over the gamut, so to speak.
Hey, Brent, much like when your eyesight goes, that's because of rods and cones and all that good stuff in your eyes. Is it a deterioration within the ear mechanism, eardrum, all the smaller bones that causes most?
What he's really asking is, does booze cause hearing loss?
If I keep pouring bourbon in my ear, will it help?
Does eating too many Funyuns and Bako Bits cause hearing loss? No, it's actually a good question, Mike.
Yeah, no, I would tell you that it really depends on the type of hearing loss, but the most common form of hearing loss is called sensory neural hearing loss, and that is where your cochlea, which is sort of your inner ear, it's the business end of your hearing loss, that has these little hair cells in there, and as they die off or get damaged, that can lead to hearing loss. That's the most common form of hearing loss. So yes, as you listen to too many rock concerts, wear your AirPods too long, like I do. I fall asleep with my AirPods at night. Probably doing some damage to my hearing loss, frankly.
What about the volume of the TV? Because my parents were older and had the volume so loud, and now I'm the same. My kids have it at 25, and I'm like, you got to crank that upwards of 40 because I cannot hear it.
Really?
Yeah, I'm pretty. I need whatever you got going on. I need it.
And that's why you're here, Brent. So. Hey, Brent. By the way, Brent's company is publicly traded under the stock symbol COCH on NASDAQ. It's Envoy Medical. Talk about your solutions, because those who suffer, my father is 96 years old, God bless him, and if I talk to him on the phone, he's got hearing devices, and he's a pistol on the phone. But in public, because there's ambient noise, and I know, Brent, you're very familiar with what I'm about to say here, ambient noise, he may as well be in a box. Because if there's any sort of ambient noise out there, including in a restaurant, plates tinkling, or it's your home, the water's running, even the TV in the background. Talk about your solution, though, because my dad would rather suffer in silence than be a burden, which I think is just tragic.
Sure. So we have two devices. We have a fully implanted active middle ear device. It's called the Esteem. That's been FDA approved since 2010. And that device picks up the sound from the ear. So we don't use any external microphone. So you talk about your dad being in a restaurant, ambient noise. One of the problems with hearing aids that so many people are familiar with is they pick up all of the sound in the environment and kind of amplify everything at the same level. But our device picks up the sound through the ear, so you get the natural benefit. I always point to our big floppy thing on the side of our heads. Those are called a pinna. They were designed, or they were evolved in a way to work with your brain, to pick up human speech, to pick up noise, and then work with your brain. Just like we both hear, or we both see with two eyes, we hear with two ears, and our brain was developed to hear through that. So when you can leverage the ear, which is what we're known for, that is our sort of secret sauce. We pick up the sound through the ear and then leverage that to deliver the therapy to the cochlea, which you see there is that snail-shaped thing. That's basically the end of your hearing nerve, which is what picks up the sound.
Brent Lucas, the CEO of Envoy Medical, their NASDAQ ticker symbol COCH. Brent, one of the favorite things we like to do with my dad is when he have his hearing aids in, is just to sit there and talk to him and go, and he's always going like that.
That is evil.
It totally is evil. Is there anything you can do to improve ear health before you get to the point where I'm calling you and saying, Brent, I give up, let's go, I want my hearing back?
Sure, and I'll tell you a funny story. Is when I tell people I work in the hearing industry, the first thing I always get is, "What was that?" And I fall for it all the time.
Yeah. What was it?
Yeah, and I work for a hearing company. So the answer is yes, you can do some things to help your hearing health. If you're younger, you should be wearing ear protection pretty much in any loud environment. So if your job or you go to a loud concert, you should always be wearing some sort of ear protection. And then there's also some drugs. So it's called ototoxicity. So there are some drugs that can actually harm your hearing. So be mindful of which drugs those are. Painkillers, for example, certain chemo drugs can do more harm than to your ear.
I real quickly. So what you have resolved for me, as I'm looking online here at your stuff, is that my dad would suddenly not have to deal with just one encode decode sort of arrangement. You've been able to bifurcate or even trifurcate in some levels. My in-ears show several different drivers in here, where it's a bass driver, a mid driver, a music driver. I know it's not a musical sort of a device, but you've been able to separate out spectrum, it seems, by way of a bio device.
Yeah, the beauty of our device is that it's working with your ear. So we don't have to rely on a microphone. We don't have to rely on artificial microphones picking up the sound. We rely on the ear. Now, we do process that signal, so it's not a perfect analog, but we do process that signal for the patient. But really, what we've been able to do is give a person a way of hearing without being tied to it. So, you see somebody with a hearing aid or a traditional cochlear implant with a big external device, they're tied to that all day long. Your hearing loss is 24 hours a day. Your hearing solution should also be 24 hours a day. Right. One of the things that people don't think about is the single mother at home who can't hear her child cry at night because she has to take off her hearing device. Our device is with you all day, every day, and that's really what sets us apart from everyone else.
Now, Brent, are these covered by insurance? I see something called the Hearing Device Clarification Act, because it seems like maybe they're not covered yet, which seems ridiculous.
It is ridiculous. I'll start there. Yes, the first device, the Esteem device, is not currently covered by Medicare. Medicare calls this a hearing aid, which it is not. This is a hearing implant. And there are other hearing implants that are covered. So we're working towards getting this covered and hopeful that CMS and folks in Congress and maybe the administration, the current one or the incoming one, will help us get this passed. Essentially, what our devices are for when hearing aids are no longer good enough for you, when hearing aids aren't working for you, you can't hear well enough with them, or maybe they're not conducive to your lifestyle for a particular reason. But for example, let's say you have bad eyesight and you can't change the hearing aid batteries and you need something with you all the time. This is a perfect example of when our device could be something that you need. So we're pushing that. We have a bill in the House and a bill in the Senate, and hopefully, an act of Congress is probably harder to predict than an act of God, but we're hopeful that things will come along.
Brent, two things. I need to follow up with you. Honestly, I want you back on the air next week for this. Sure. We need a longer segment and a follow up. Number two, what do you guys? What's next for you guys, and so much you can share with us as a CEO of a public company for 2025? What does 2025 look like for you in terms of getting this thing in the market, or getting through FDA, or getting through these hearings and so on and so forth? Talk about that. No pun intended on the hearings thing.
Yeah. So on our first device, I'm going to set that aside for a second. That's more on the reimbursement side. We have some exciting things, hopefully moving forward with that. Our second device is a fully implanted cochlear implant. That will disrupt the cochlear implant market, I am quite certain. And so we are working towards getting that in our pivotal study. So we announced a couple of weeks ago that we have FDA approval to start that trial, which is called an IDE approval. So we will be moving forward with that. Next year, you're going to hear us talk about enrollments, finishing the first stage, that sort of thing. So we will start to talk about the progress of our clinical study, which should be very, very exciting.
I think for us, honestly, I need to follow up on this because we're going to get a million emails, and this is going to end up being
I hope so, yeah.
a public service.
Well, Brent, the bottom line is we all have older parents, older friends and stuff that all deal with it. So, yeah, we're hitting the tip of the iceberg with you. He's Brent Lucas, CEO of Envoy Medical, NASDAQ ticker sign COCH. Brent, appreciate it. We'll get you back on soon. More of the Big Biz after this.